All right, welcome back to the show. I'm Chad Burdett. This is the Comics Multiverse, and we're, a part of the Comic Watch website, which I write for, and I do the weekly crowdfunding calendar for. And today, one of my guests is one of the creators who has been featured on in that article over the past couple of weeks as his book, The Cryo, has been funding, and he is here to join us and to chat about the project. So let me go ahead and bring him in.
Hey,
Hey, Charles, how's it going?
going really good.
So before we get talking about, your Kickstarter and everything like that, tell me a little bit about yourself, about your history with comics, both as a reader and as a writer.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm a screenwriter. I write movies and TV. Um, people can people can watch my movie Embers, which is it's like a very like indie art film, sci-fi film. It's pretty experimental. Um, or I did a Netflix original film called Io, which is also a very indie sci-fi film. Um, but really, comics was probably my first love as a writer. I remember the first story I wrote was a comic book. When I was in kindergarten, my best friend and I would sit there and make comic books like our like original stories, our own original superheroes, just on like 8.5 by 11 paper and staple them together. And he was a really great artist, and I was not. I think we were a little bit too young to realize that we should combine forces. Um, so he had beautiful, incredible um, art and really nice panels. I had like pretty bad thumbnails, but like I was able to execute a story even when I was in kindergarten or first grade. And so it's the I've been a music journalist. I've been a screenwriter for a long time, but in the last few years, I really confronted that, like, wow, like comics, I've read them since I was a little kid, and this is the thing that I really um it's like how my like writing a comic is how my brain thinks the most, like thinking in
Hmm.
panels and thinking in
Yeah.
poses. I really love, and so it's it, I I have a few different series that I'm like, it's time to get these out into the world. Um, as a kid, the things that I really loved most first, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, um, really blew my mind as a kid. Um, Marv Wolfman's Vigilante was something that I read like every issue of. Um, and then at a comic book store, I found like a whole box of like old issues of the DC The Shadow from the 70s. I just bought a
Hmm.
whole bunch of DC's 70s run of The Shadow, and that was also something that had a big impact on me. Um, but yeah, it's really been something that's kind of been a lifelong passion. especially as a reader.
So what? Yeah, no, you said you talked about you know writing comics as a kid. Um, I'm sorry. Did you mention or did I miss if you said the first comic book you read or picked up?
Oh, I think I'm trying to think the first one I read. I think the first one I read I got at like a gas station market, and I believe it was there's three that I remember that I still have, and I don't know which one was first. So one was Marvel did like a Blade Runner like limited series in the 80s. So I had an issue of that, um, an issue of um, Marvel's Star Wars run, and I also had an Indiana Jones. And those I think were the first I read when I was quite young, and I think I just picked them from a shelf at like a gas station. Um, but my my older cousin had a sort of mail order comic business, as people did back then, which turned into a really successful comic book shop in New Jersey. So from pretty shortly after that, I was able to access a lot of stuff um, from my cousin's shop, and so that's how how I like was lucky enough to read like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on its initial run. You know.
Nice. So let's talk about the cryo.
Cool.
What kind of give us an overview of what it is and kind of what inspired it.
Oh wait, yeah, the Cryos, it's a sci-fi punk comic book. It's about a New York punk band in 1982, called the Cryos, and they are, they're trying to decide what to do with their sort of like scrappy band existence, and they decide that that London's where it's at for them, so they need to go play London. And when they're playing their first show in London in the green room, which is like a just like a basement in this club, they find an old device which turns out to be a time machine that was actually built by H.G. Wells. Um, and via via a little bit of high stakes action and accident, they travel through time. Um, so what I really wanted to do was kind of take all of my passions and sorry, that's a little noisy. I'm in a parking lot. I wanted to take all of my passions and mash them up into one, one sort of comic book series where publishing it really DIY. So there's no like, oh, we need to get rid of that. We can't have that digression. That's not efficient. And so it's 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 time travel in the most like Back to the Future sort of fun way. It's punk rock. It's band life. It's a it's a robot revolution in the future. Um, and I love things like I'm a big Philip K. Dick fan, and I love things that take sort of like cultural detritus and mash them together into something that wants to be profound, and that's what we're trying to do with the Cryos.
Nice. And so, who are the main characters, and how did you go about developing them?
Mm. So I really I, I'm a big fan of the filmmaker Jim Jarmusch, and I love how real his characters are, and how much they feel like people you may have bumped into or known, and so we really wanted to do that with the Cryos, and Amilcar Pinna's art I think really embodies, like, you look at them and you feel like they're people you know. So the band is led by a character named Anna Droid, um, and she's the singer and keyboardist and songwriter for the band. The bassist is Gabe Gristle, and the drummer is Broken Record. So they have these kind of like rock and roll names. Um, the the main antagonist in the story is a very like Richard Branson, Steve Jobs kind of like corporate CEO who has managed to like gain control of the future 1,000 years into the
Hmm.
future. And he's the main antagonist, and he's a sort of like a sort of slippery corporate visionary. Um, there's an anarchist from the 19th century who also ends up um, out of joint in time. His name is Smith. And then one of my favorite characters is that really ends up being important in this after the band travels through time is this character named Ant, who is he's the leader of in this comic the androids are called bioids, um, and he's a very he's a very Blade Runner-esque character who is leading the revolution in the future, the so-called robot revolution against the humans.
Okay. So, tell me about the rest of the creative team who are, working on the book with you, and how did you kind of, get connected with them?
Yeah,
We'll start with that.
so Amilcar Pinna, who people might know from Generation X, has is Pencils and Inks, and I met him through Martin Morazzo, who I listeners might know from Ice Cream Man is his
Mhm.
really brilliant book, and
Great, great,
Amilcar,
great series. Love it.
so good, right? And Amilcar, I think has like some of the best frames in comics. He draws from the most interesting angles, and he actually draws so you can feel like lensing, like you could feel like a wide angle lens or a long lens, and I think that's something really unique and really stunning in his work that like you can feel a sense of lensing. Um, our colorist is Trina Farrell, um, who I contacted out of the blue without knowing her because her coloring work was like my favorite that I've seen. I think she's absolutely brilliant. Like her color, like every time you see a page she's colored, it's surprising and really exceptional. And I think it makes the work stand out as much as the line work. And then Becca Carey is our letterer, and I'm not sure if other comic book writers feel like this, but I'm like really obsessed with letterers because it's the part where like I get to see the dialogue I typed um,
Hmm.
show up on the page. So I really love lettering. Um, and I think Becca, who's known for like the Radiant Black series,
Right.
um,
Yep.
I I think she's one of the top five letterers that's working today. I think she's so exceptional. Um, and I love her work. I mean, there's because this is a comic about a punk band. We're representing like music and singing and things like that, and her ability to take like, oh well, this is a song, but it's coming from a boombox, so the lettering will look like this and incorporate like this. It's just like it really pulls me into the story.
Now, is I take it this is a like a limited series type thing that you're doing to kind of you know ju- get into the the getting in as a comic creator maybe.
Yeah, so this is a 5 issue limited series, although Amilcar and I do have places we'd like to take the story afterwards, and so we kind of we need to do our extremely hard work on self-publishing the issues for this first run. Um, but beyond that, I'm open to us continuing to do it in this manner, or the possibility of I think self-published crowd-funded things recently have been then later picked up by publishers, and I'm not against. I mean, I really like the DIY format, but I'm not against that because there are other arcs that we would like to tell with this in success. So the story comes to a very satisfying conclusion at the end of this 5 issue arc, but there's just the world is so interesting to me that there's other things that Amilcar and I would like to explore with it.
Now, I know when we first started talking, you said that you're a filmmaker, but you think you tend to think in like panels. How was actually going from filmmaking to you know I would assume you worked with you know for the artist with um, to get what you're writing translated to the page. How was it going from being more so a filmmaker to you know getting things onto the comic page?
Mm-hmm. Um, I mean, I read a lot of comic book scripts. I read any that I could find. Um, and you know, it was something that I had done in a very amateur sort of way
Right.
when I was much younger. But a few years ago, when I really started to kind of buckle down, um, I looked at what other comic book writers I liked were doing, and then I found, and I read like Grant's book and Alan Moore's book, and um, but so what I found was that in TV writing and movie writing are similar, but they're probably in some ways they're almost as different as say like movie writing and comic book writing, in that each one does a different thing really well. And
Hmm.
what I love about comic book writing is that it breaks it down into constituent parts. So, like a lot of screenwriters will get like lost in the scene when they're writing a scene and they don't know when to get into it and when to get out of it, and they're like, oh, is there too much dialogue here? Comic books demand efficiency, right? Like we have to tell these stories. We want to tell rich stories, but we need to tell them sort of quickly. And I love that it makes it like Legos, like each pan I can like really focus on what I want this panel to be. And then that
Hmm.
panel's done and I move on to the next panel. And that's what I really love about it from a creative perspective and how my mind thinks. In screenwriting, it's a little bit more amorphous when you start that scene and when you get to the end of the scene. It's not so clear as a comic book. So I don't know. I mean, I just started writing comic book scripts. Even stuff before I had an artist for something, I would be like, okay, let me write an issue of this comic I have an idea for, and that's how I practice.
Okay. Now kind of looking over the Kickstarter page, I see that you've done, two previous Kickstarters for films.
Mm.
How so is, this experience being your first comic book Kickstarter is how do the experiences differ?
Mm. It's much better to kickstart comics than films. I think that Kickstarter is really good for comic books. I think it's really good for tabletop games. Um, because I think kind of like explaining to people what they're going to get, and they're basically pre-ordering something, uh, and they can sort of they can be a part of it. They can,
Mhm.
like, let's say it's like tabletop games do great. Let's say it's a new tabletop game, right? That might be pretty pricey and have like lots of little pieces and everything, but the supporters are going to be of like the first like 300 people that ever play this tabletop game. And that's cool because they're part of a community. It's really hard to have that sense of community with a film. And with a film, I mean, like even a film that is that has distribution on a streamer or something like that, still essentially like people they're begging you to watch it. You
Mhm.
don't like you see a comic book that looks cool or looks like your thing's punk, and you see there's a punk comic book, I want to read that. Like with a film, you're like every film you're a little bit like, do I want to see that? I don't know. and so I do really think it's very hard for films. I think it's really great for comic books and for tabletop games in particular.
Sort of, kind of, related. Who do you have favorite, punk bands that you like to listen to, or kind of are
Oh yeah.
look to for inspiration
Oh
for
yeah.
this book?
Yeah, so this series is it's dedicated to Polystyrene and Laura Logic from X-Ray Spex, um, who were a band that really like blew my mind when I first heard them. I was when I was 12 years old. I heard them on WPRB, which was Princeton University's radio station, and there was this show where they would play albums in their entirety. But I was too young to really be able to discern like stuff being old or stuff being it all sounded kind of contemporary to me. So I didn't even know the X-Ray Spex album Germ Free Adolescence was an old album. It sounded like super new to me. Yeah, and I heard that and it really blew my mind. So this is the Cryos is very inspired by the X-Ray Spex. Um, my favorite band's Fugazi. Um, I love Minor Threat, Bad Brains. I come very much from like a '90s um, hardcore scene sensibility. Um, of current stuff, it's interesting because there's some bands that are more current that I'm like, oh, this is the closest thing to what the Cryos would sound like. Um, for that, I would say Control Top is a really great band on Get Better Records. Um, Ganser. Uh, there's so many bands I love. Um, I was a music journalist
Okay.
before I got into music videos and screenwriting. So I don't know. It's just been a like just tons of music has been a thing for a long time for me.
I completely understand. Um, so, I mean, right now you have 7 days to go on the campaign, and
Mm.
you're sitting above your, goal. Um, are you guys looking at stretch goals? Are you, kind of seeing how things, go within the next? 'Cause, I know from, just doing the things I do for Comic Watch and doing the, you know, Kickstarter and for comics can be a very volatile thing sometimes, where
Mm.
you're, you know, oh, you're over your goal, and then 2 days later, something. I'm not trying to jinx you. I'm not saying that, but I'm just kind of seeing, what so far, with the success that you are having now. How would you, I don't know, what would you say about the experience thus far?
Um, the first. I mean, I think this is true of. They say this is true of just about any Kickstarter. The first 2 days was really like was like wildfire, like with so much support coming out, and it's really been hard to get backers kind of in the middle period. I feel like it's like a Cronenberg movie. Like I'm reaching my arms into the computer and having to like grab by the hand every single backer and lead them from Twitter over to Kickstarter. Um, but but we made our goal, which is great. Really, we hope that in these last 7 days and in the last 2 days, if we can if we can get way beyond our goal, we'll make a really big difference for our ability um, to just know that to have the second issue coming, because then we can go right from production of the first issue into the second issue, and then it'll be more a matter of like backers will get their first issue, and then boom, we'll have the campaign where they can order like the second issue, which will be like it's done or it's almost done, and there won't be like a big break between them reading the two issues. So that's really why we're trying to stretch beyond the goal that we needed to complete production on issue one, just so we can keep it going and everyone can follow the story without having to wait, wait a long time.
And I'm looking over the page, and it looks like the available rewards that you guys have are very reasonable. I mean, $8 for a digital copy, $10 for a digital copy, and other works, and then $13 for the physical copy, and kind of on up there. I mean, $15 for a variant for the variant cover is, that's a, I don't want to say a steal, but it's a good deal. Is that something you kind of considered when you were kind of figuring out the reward tiers?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to get stuff as affordable as possible for backers. So we tried to get the lowest number we could. Um, like my favorite band, Fugazi, famously only charged $5 for tickets to their shows, no matter what. And I think I think there's something really admirable about saying like, look, we're trying to make this. We're not trying to make a fortune here. We're just trying to make enough to actually print the book and
Mhm.
and get it out there and keep the prices low for the backers as possible. I mean, I'm hoping that if in these last 7 days, if we can do really well on this issue one, that we might even be able to lower the prices a bit for issue two.
Oh, I think that'd be awesome. It'd definitely be a way to get more people interested in issue number two.
Yeah, and I think also anyone who's backed issue one, I'm gonna find a way to make issue two cheap for them.
So, how have you? Obviously, you as a comic writer, from when you were young to now, you've kind of grown. But how have you grown, and who, I guess, influences your style?
Mm. Um, okay, so I mean, The Invisibles is my favorite series of all time, and I, I mean, I really love Grant Morrison's writing. Um, I think it's it's the next level kind of stuff that when I first read The Invisibles, Grant's writing like didn't just change what I thought about comic books, like it affected how I saw the world. And I think that's really amazing when something can do that. And I think comic books are very good at doing that because they're very accessible. Um, I I love Matthew Rosenberg's work. Um, I think What's the Furthest Place from Here is such a great comic. It really like it harkens back to those Vertigo comics, which I think are the thing that I um, love and emulate. Like the idea that a comic can have action and keep us really hooked, but it can also have like weird digressions and strange ideas and take us places that movies and TV can't. And so in some ways it's like way more liberated and less constrained than other media that I work in. Um, Black Science is another one of my favorite series of all time. Um, I think that it just was a great sci-fi series that had so many great sci-fi stories, really grounded in character, which is maybe the most important thing to me. Um, so I mean I think those are probably my biggest influences.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to kind of mention about, the Kickstarter, the book that maybe, I didn't, kind of lead you to want to answer, you know.
I think we covered a lot. I would just say that I think the thing that's great about comics on Kickstarter is that they really are unrestrained by the kind of like demands of a publisher. And so I would encourage people to find as many cool comics on there as possible because you're getting a pretty unfiltered view from a creator. And I think that's something really cool. And I think that is why it's why comics are inherently kind of punk rock, and why the Cryos being a punk comic fits so well. Really, like the more there could be no rules, the more it's the best artistic medium out there because it's not it's not encumbered by the expensive show you see on Netflix's rules. You know, it's like we can do anything, and I think crowdfunded comics are a really great place to find that.
All right. Well, as we kind of sign off here, if you want to give one final pitch for the book and where people can find you on social media.
Yeah, so the Cryos is a punk sci-fi comic book about band life, punk rock, H.G. Wells time travel, and don't worry, it has like cool action and an entire robot revolution. Um, and You can find it on Kickstarter, and you can find me on Twitter, just Charles Spano, my name.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time. I'm glad we were able to connect, and
Me too.
you know, hopefully we can reconnect when you're ready to do issue two, and hopefully we can either include include. I'm going to mispronounce his name. That's why I really don't want to say it. But um,
Amilcar?
yeah, Amacar. Maybe we
Yeah,
can include him, or maybe we can, you know, do what we kind of talked to, which I kind of dropped the ball on, is send him some questions to get his kind of perspective on, the project and
for
working on
sure.
it.
Yeah,
But
Amilcar's English is impeccable. It's just his own anxiety about being, on on video speaking his second language.
oh, that's completely understandable, and I try not to. I try not. Well, I try not to make the people I interview uncomfortable. I don't know. You can tell me off camera, but but no, it was great to chat with you, and good
Likewise,
luck as the campaign wraps up, and we'll continue to follow it and help you promote it over on Comic Watch and our crowdfunder corner. And I will post this interview there too, and send you the link. And
awesome.
yeah, let's definitely come back. When you're ready to start with number two, and we can talk about that and your experience here with this one.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, we would love to. And yeah, more people who back it, the faster issue two will come out.
All right. Well, again, thank you. And remember, if anybody who's watching, you can check out this and other great crowdfunding projects over on comicwatch.com on Saturdays at noon. And yeah, go find something new to read. And well, we'll be back with more interviews and more projects for you to spend your hard-earned money on. But you have a great rest of your day, and stay cool. I mean, it looks a lot cooler than it is here, but
It's very pleasant.
all right. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.